What's going on? Today we're going to be traveling into the jungles to celebrate the Blu-ray release of Apex. Join us on this journey and hear what I have to say about this movie. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our content, we create content like what you're watching right now, right here, simply to educate and engage individuals like yourselves on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name is Captain Nostalgia. I have the privilege of being a writer, podcaster, and events coordinator here, among many other things. If you guys would like more information about what we do as a nonprofit, links to our podcasts, movie reviews like this one, our social media, Patreon, and our mental health resource library, the most important thing. All of those are going to be in the show notes below. If you guys like what I have to say or are curious about this movie, we'll provide links in the descriptions below where you can either pre-order/order the Blu-ray also. I don't even know where to begin with this because this plot is kind of simply overcomplicated, just a tad. So this takes place in the future. I would say. Never quite clear, so if you watch this and you think I'm crazy, please let me know, and I will retweet out and retract my thoughts. But society has kind of done this like Hunger Games type thing where they essentially bring in a volunteer or victim to be the prey, and then like 6 other people are the predators and try to hunt that individual. It's very much like the Hunger Games, the Hunt, these types of movies we've seen an uprise with in the past few years. A hunt that we follow throughout the course of this film. Bruce Willis is the prey and the predators are led by Neil McDowell, among many other actors you've seen in other things. In fact, this film is actually directed by Edward Drake, and that name might not sound familiar, but a couple years ago we sat down with him to talk about his movie Broil. That interview in the descriptions below. Broil is one of the most underrated horror gems of the last few years, and yeah, so fun fact aside. What I really liked about Apex is how visually stunning this movie is. The technology of this movie really dazzles on the screen. Like, there's no better way to kind of put it. It has a very spectacular, beautiful color palette, and it just makes this movie come alive in a way that I feel like other movies like The Hunt or the Hunger Games kind of don't really come alive. And I'm a huge fan of The Hunt, and those are probably going to be comparisons you hear a lot come up throughout the course of this film, but this movie looks beautiful. Sometimes these lower budget movies, I'm really hesitant, and I try to be very lenient on the CGI because I understand the budgetary restraints. But this film, honestly, I don't know what the budget is, but it looks like a blockbuster film. And that's one of the things that really surprised me was how beautiful this looks. Visually stunning with its CGI effects, with the technology that is surrounding this world and or the compound that we spend the majority of the movie on, but also the cinematography just looks stunning. I'm really surprised by how much I really enjoyed looking at this movie. That said, I wanted more from this plot so bad. The idea that The Hunt explores with its themes of classism and just kind of like also like internet trolling, and how there's a social commentary that's brilliantly woven in through that. And this film is not trying to be that, and I'm thankful that it might be taking a page out of one of those books, but it never copies the homework directly. If anything, this movie is a love letter to the 80s and the action films of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. If I had to compare this movie to anything, this is Predator. This is a more modern take on Predator. I had fun with that. The writing and the dialogue really is cheesy. It's really bad. Honestly, it's just blatantly bad in some parts of the movie. And that adds to its charm of, being a fun time. Also say this movie's narrative frustrated the ever-loving crap out of me because it couldn't decide who it wanted to pursue and who it wanted to follow. Honestly, on paper, if this was just Bruce Willis versus Neil McDowell, I am here for them because I love McDowell as an actor. He is just a great bad guy. I've never seen him deliver a terrible performance, even when he did like lower tier stuff like the CW's Arrowverse, and he was Damien Dark in those, and later in Legends of Tomorrow, or even low one here for you, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I love his just ability to kind of send shivers down your spine without having to do so much. A real intensity to him that makes him the perfect bad guy, and the fact in this one is that he's not really a bad guy, he's just a misunderstood guy, and I found his character to be very compelling and very interesting and very three-dimensional. Stack that up against the 5 other apex predators that is in this movie. Like, they are so generic. Frustrating to me because we spend so much time with these other characters that we're supposed to feel sorry for them, that, you know, here you have a guy that is genuinely just continuously trying to challenge and grow himself, and he kind of gets placed into the sideline until like the second half of the movie. Instead, we're forced to follow these other guys that you're just never given a reason as to why you should care about them. And when you mix that in with the fact that Bruce Willis in this movie, he's basically his character from Die Hard. He's got those one-liners, he's very quippy, he's very quirky, but a good majority of the movie he just sits and walks. He feels very underutilized here. Like, I don't know. This movie is a lot of fun, and there are a lot of things. For as much as I have a lot of crap to say about the side characters of this movie, the other predators, they are some of the most entertaining portions of this movie. You know, this movie is very much a catch-22. It's hard to judge and to be fair to movies like Apex that are really terrible on the surface but have enough charm and entertainment to them, that are one of those movies that are so good it's bad. Then again, maybe I have a type. The way you split it, there are a lot of issues with this movie. That is the acting, whether that's the writing, whether that is the just forgettableness that this movie is. It's very generic. This movie follows so many other things from other films that we've seen publicized so many other times before because of its performances from McDowell and its visual aesthetic and its love letter to the 80s. This is just an all-around fun time. Say that this is going to be hitting Blu-ray and DVD beginning February 8th. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you guys are interested in checking this movie out, I will have links in the descriptions below. But there are no special features in this. There's nothing at all. You have the option to play and or change the languages. And that's kind of disappointing to me as a collector. So if you're going to check this out, I would highly recommend you guys just VODing this movie, waiting for a streaming service, in all honesty, because this movie is fun. It's flawed, but it's fun. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, this movie's riddled with issues, but there's enough charm and there's enough to just really hold on to make it a fun time. And on this episode's Mental Health Moment, due to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health out of the film and we expand upon it for just a few minutes in hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. Opens up on this guy right here, and he's kind of like the alpha type. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, he concludes a previous hunt before we actually get into the hunt of the movie. In that, he tells the system that if you really want to see me and make me happy, find me a challenge. The character develops throughout the course of time. You learn the thing that makes this guy tick is that he is very particular and it's very hard to make happy. I think sometimes we have this tendency to think that if I can just have X, or if I can just have Y, or if I can just have Z, then I'll be happy. Then I'll know things. Things will make me happy and bring me joy and bring me peace, and I'll no longer be depressed. I'll no longer be suicidal. I'll no longer be addicted. And that's just not the case. There are special occasions to that rule. A individual becoming a parent, say for example, or getting ready to marry a spouse, but chances are that is very slim. To flip our perspective on what makes us happy, what brings us peace, and ultimately what brings us fulfillment, and what gives us a identity and purpose. And sometimes those answers, they take years to come to fruition. It takes things like medicine, therapy, accountability, friendships, a number of different things to really manifest and bring those things to the surface. I want to encourage you to reflect on that. Ask yourself, what brings me joy? What brings me peace? And is it really ultimately something that I am placing higher than my own mental health? Sometimes the answers might surprise you. And I'll share my own struggles in this department. About 10 years ago, I had a obsession with the horror genre. You're like, I know, you run a podcast on it. Most of the stuff on this channel is all horror. But this was an unhealthy degree. And I placed my own mental health, and I bottled up a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, a lot of violence, a lot of just depression, and I just bottled it all up into this genre. And ultimately, I had to remove myself for it from about 5 years to understand the thing that is the difference between being vulnerable and escape. I know that's probably a little bit different than what I was initially saying, but the gist is still the same, is that I was placing unfair expectations for my mental health. I was looking in temporary happiness and temporary peace. Ask yourself what's going to sustain your happiness. And then, likewise, you'll find the answer to what sustains your healthy mental health. Needed mental health resources are in the descriptions below, and be sure that you guys check out Apex when it comes onto DVD and VOD and Blu-ray beginning February 8th. Have a great night, guys.